G'day legends, welcome back to Roadside, presented by Zwift. We're back again for our fortnightly show, landing on every second Wednesday. Tommy, we've got a big show ahead of us. The classics are over, the Giro is upon us. We've got some news regarding one cycling to get into today. We've got our... What else we got happening here? The transfer news as well is being popping off, and we're going to pick our best and worst performers of the season. And just in the other room, Mr. Earl, my cat, has done a rude shit, man, and it stinks, but Tommy's here with me just.
Yeah, and you've taken the doors off. You've gotten stuck into the renovations, mate. Good to see you again. It feels like an eternity since we've done a pod, but
I know.
Yeah, Earl has just let one rip over there. Anyway, moving on, mate. You've got a pretty busy couple of weeks coming up, hey?
Well, we're entering the big gravel season here in Australia. I think we mentioned that a couple of weeks ago. We had the Gravel Nationals occur for a brand new race.
Where was that?
In Ponderosa Pines. I can't remember where it is. I think New South Wales somewhere, or maybe Adelaide. Don't know. But it was an old cycling run race, and from all accounts, it went okay. But we've got...
Just okay?
Yeah, just okay. We've got Devil's Cardigan coming up in Tassie.
Yep, that's the big one.
A couple of weeks' time. So we'll be going down there again for that in Derby, which is a real special place for bike riding, Tommy. There's mountain bike mecca, gravel riding mecca, and the Devil's Cardigan is the parkour, and of course the climate is
bleak.
Yeah, tough.
Yeah, bloody bleak. After 1 year of racing tour of Taz, I actually went across with a mate and we climbed Ben Lomond.
Oh, yeah.
Little mountain around the corner. Yeah, went right up to the top, mate. Yeah, and the switchbacks.
There's actually...
Yeah, it was good. It was really beautiful. It was gorgeous. And, you can overlook that whole...
Yes.
Yeah, stunning.
Up there, they had the Tour of Tasmania 1 year, and Chris Froome rode it because Richie Port got him to ride it. He brought him across, right? And when we were doing the signage for Devil's Cardigan last year, me and Big Blue Derby Pete up there, we were signing the course, and there's a hut at the top of one of the climbs, like a hiking hut. And he went in there and he showed me, and there is a scratching, because everyone scratches their name on the inside of the hut when they've reached the height of the pinnacle or whatever, of the peak. And there is a Froome 2017 name scratched in there. And we double checked, and it was whatever year it was the year he rode the Tour of Tassie with Richie Port. So Froome's been up there. There's a little Easter egg I found, mate.
Imagine rolling into the Tour of Taz and there's the big Froome dog. It wouldn't have been 2017 because I was there groveling away up Politina. So it wasn't that year, I can tell you that much.
Mate. Yeah, so Devil's Cardigan, we're going to do a preview for that as well coming up next week. And then, of course, the big dance here in gravel, one of the biggest gravel races in the world, 7 gravel race the weekend after.
Is it the biggest gravel race in Australia? I don't know the gravel. I'm ignorant. Is it? Is it 7 is?
Probably, I would say, top 3 in the world.
Wow.
Top 3 in the world, and it will be the World Championships next year.
Yeah, there'd be no bias in that statement, despite you being on the payroll for the event.
They don't choose that shitty gravel race in Rwanda, mate, to have the World Championships. They have 7 in that. So big fortnight for me, mate. Now you have been, speaking of cash jobs, you've been out there working at the local Death Valley Classic.
It was the Brigadoon Superloop, put on by West Cycle out of town here in Perth.
That's the hilly region,
Fondo,
isn't it?
It was
outside
Fondo
Hills area in Perth.
It was good to see. It was good. It was a good event. It was. Oh, look, we forget the big variety our sport can cater to.
Yeah.
And going to these events, it was just bloody beautiful to see people take to it, go out and ride what we call Death Valley out through Gidgegannup.
This is the
hard. It's a hard loop.
It's Durbo's stomping ground.
Yeah, it is.
So when Durbridge comes back to Perth, he gets all the WA hitters, and they do this loop where you were working.
It was good.
Good challenge.
Yeah, it was bloody good. Beautiful day. Champagne conditions.
Champagne conditions. I'm sure you had champagne for dinner, mate, after that invoice was cleared. But let's just, before we get stuck into the show, remind everyone to follow along on YouTube. You can see one of the new props we've got on our little podcast table here. Actually, the mascot from the Paris 2024 Olympics here on our table, Tommy.
If I had $1 for every time you brought up Paris 2024, this
podcast
would be incredibly wealthy.
It was very good. Hey, how many podcasts get paid to go there as I've knocked over the Pirelli Cups? So you can check out that on YouTube. Make sure you're watching us and give us a subscribe. And follow us on the podcast players as well.
Yes.
You can click the bell. You can click follow on Spotify. And you can actually comment on Spotify now. So if you're listening to the pod on Spotify, go and find the comment sections and give us some thoughts of what you think about Tommy and what you think about me. Of course, the number one.
You dribble. And I've got to, while I'm thinking, I've got to give a quick shout out to Stubbsy. That's who I went up to the top of Ben Lymond with old Jeffrey Stubbs. So shout out Stubbsy. He'll be listening.
He loves the pod.
That was a great time.
Good on him. And also thanks to Zwift as well, our title sponsor, for going on to our 4th year now. We've got a big show to get stuck into. Let's unpeel the lid off it, Tommy. This is Roadside, presented by Zwift. So the Ardennes are over, Tommy. They are done. They go so quickly compared to the Cobbled Classics.
Yeah, because you don't care about them.
That's right. I really do not care too much for them at the moment. But as a recap of results, Revanche, Papille, Amstel, La Flèche and Liège are kind of the big dogs, Tommy. And who were the winners in those ones?
Yes, first race back, in fact, for the season. Remco, he won Brabantse Papille.
Yep.
Longo Borghini on the women's side. Amstel Gold, this was a good race. Yeah. Amstel, if you can remember back to 2019, where Van der Poel won.
Who could forget?
That is one of the most iconic finishes. And we had another good one, Skelmoser from Trek. He had probably the biggest breakthrough of his career. And it was Bredewald.
Yeah, Michel Bredewald from SD Works. Little weapon out there. La Flèche alone, we had Pogacar do his thing. It stunk. Puck Peterson, really
impressive.
Yeah, she showed that, okay, she's good in the Cobbled Classics, but the Ardennes looks like where she really is home, because the way she dusted Vollering, she sat her down. It was very impressive. And, of course, last weekend's Liège-Bastogne-Liège, we had the Snorefest, where Pog was just too good. That's not the Snorefest. The Snorefest is the race. And in the women's, Lecourt getting it done. Big Kim Lecourt, of course, an OG of the TPR podcast. Tommy, we had her back in the day. She outsprinted Vollering and Peterson in the same group, so that was a huge win for her. But
is that the biggest of her career?
It is. Yeah, so she's been knocking on the door. You look at her classics campaign from the start of the year. I think nowhere has she finished out of the top 10. So Kim Lecourt is a weapon, and AG Insurance better bring the absolute bank balance to make sure she is there, Tom.
Yeah, they do. They've got to try and keep the Mauritian national champion on the books. A little bit confusing with the rainbow bands on her jersey from Mauritius.
Yep.
It's hard to get. I was watching it. I kept on thinking, it's Kopecky. No, it's not. And I wonder if they're going to change that one. It's kind of like his jersey's a little bit too close to like a leader's jersey. So then
they do need to change it. What about this, Tom? I think. Liège-Bastogne-Liège is a monument. We know that's the 4th one. We've got Il Lombardia. That's later on in the year.
Yes, the race of the falling leaves up in northern Italy.
I think they need to move, if they could. I'm not sure if weather or just the most obvious constraints are here that would stop this, but they need to move the Ardennes to be the first thing after the Australian summer. So instead of having the Cobbled Classics start off with opening weekend, start the opening weekend off with Amstel and do all these Ardennes races so that the final races we see are the Cobbled Classics, and we end with Flanders and then Roubaix, because you're finishing on a peak. You can't, if you have to put any race after Roubaix or Flanders, it's always going to look second best, no matter how big it is. So I reckon you get a better peak if you have Roubaix and Flanders finishing off the classic season as a whole, rather than the last race being Liège-Bastogne-Liège, which, to be honest, it doesn't even have what do you think about that?
No, I think that's crap. I think that's a terrible idea.
But don't you think it's a bit anticlimactic to end our classic seasons with Liège-Bastogne-Liège?
I think ending it through the Ardennes is a really good way of doing it. I'm a really big fan, because over time, history has shown that these two blocks of races support or suit different types of riders.
For sure, yeah.
Now that in this day and age at the moment, particularly with who was just running rampant on the podium at the top step, Pogacar, he has just brought this entirely different dynamic to the classics at the moment, and has sort of, made a lot of people go, Pog just wins wherever he goes, or at least he challenges.
Yeah.
I think, if you didn't have Pog running wild throughout Flanders and Paris-Roubaix rather, then, you wouldn't have this massive sort of empty feeling when you watch the Ardennes, because you'd see Pog there at the Ardennes, and you'd go, the Ardennes are still a big, big part of cycling.
But let's say the Liège-Bastogne-Liège, it doesn't have the Colosseum feel that Flanders or Roubaix does. Roubaix has the cobbles. We've got the Arenberg, the hectic narrow lanes, the wet cobbles, the anticipation of that first 100 Ks till they go to the first sector. And with Flanders, we have those cobbled climbs. We've got the Quaremont, the Paderberg, these little zones where the riders go to war. And I feel like in Liège-Bastogne-Liège and all the other races, you don't really have that Colosseum moment. You just have a bunch of climbs that look like stage 11 of the Tour.
I don't know, La Redoute.
La Redoute is
sensational. One of the final climbs in Liège, La Doyon.
The Flesh, you've got.
It's one of the oldest races on the calendar. It is one of the oldest races on the calendar. The Ardennes are never ever going to not be on the calendar.
I don't want
They are more pure cycling than what the cobbles are. The cobbles are this crazy idea of like some French bloke, basically going, we want to host a race in our region because we've got a track. Let's run a race from Paris up to Roubaix.
He was late for work, so he took a shortcut.
Yeah, basically. So they're going to ride them over cobbles. Wow, that's crazy. But the Ardennes, mate, they're pure cycling. Pure cyclismo.
Okay, what do you guys think?
I can't believe, so you want to see the calendar moved?
I know it's probably not possible because of weather or just general council shite.
No, they could move it.
But if you could swap it, start with the Ardennes and finish with the Belgian Cobble Classics. Yeah.
Well, I think if to see any of that sort of cohesion from different races, for starters, you've got to have all the races under one umbrella. Either owned or have, a working party. And that opens up a massive another kettle of worms, doesn't it?
That's true. I just realised I had my feet up on the seat in front of me, and I was looking a little bit short on the screen up there. So I made sure I just sat back in my chair so I get my full 6 foot of my being on this camera.
You naffy, whatever works for you. Any before we move on, any surprises out of some of the winners out of the Ardennes? Or maybe some of the losers there?
Losers, I would say. It's hard to pick a loser, really. I think you could say Vollering might be disappointed not to come away with a victory, but the way that she didn't win Flesh getting beaten by Puck in the sprint, and she didn't beat the Court in the sprint, who's very fast, she wouldn't be disappointed with their form. So I don't think there's a real loser that stands out from this period. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's hard to agree. I think it was really good to see Skelmoser break up sort of the rigmarole of the big four, all sort of Pog and Remco just going toe-to-toe.
But they stuffed Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Trek, because they had Skelmos, they had Thibaut Nice and Ciccone all in the top 13 or something. But had they ridden for one of those...
I don't think that would have made any difference.
Well, okay, with Pog, but I don't know. You never, if they have those sort of names in the race, can't they send one forward, try and attack, try and get ahead before Pog goes crazy? Get Skelmos ahead of the race before Pog goes, if it's possible, and then Pog's got Skelmos with him, who's beat him in the last week. So they
you can't do that when UAE they have the talent factory, the brigade, the Sky Train, and I saw just an interesting little sort of the social media remark of some people going, when are people going to start calling out the sort of the same level or the attitude that people had towards Sky for their dominance to UAE?
But Pog's exciting, and Sky was.
So
boring.
If someone's your mate and someone comes across as a really exciting person, and they've got charisma, personality, which Pogačar has, he's got panache as well. But he's dominating the sport at the moment. UAE are dominating the sport at the moment. You cannot deny that. How is there not any sort of calls or I don't know? What I'm trying to think about is UAE's reign of being the popular team, is it going to come to an end?
I don't think UAE are popular. I think everyone just loves Pogačar, and winning, makes you get you good positive publicity. Team Sky just murdered a Tour de France year after year after year. And to be honest, personally, I love the way Team Sky rode. Yeah. I love that. I love the lead out. I love watching Richie. I love watching Kwiatkowski and then Froome do his thing at the end. I really enjoyed that. I loved when Wiggins did it as well. But Pogačar is racing... even if he didn't have a team, he'd probably still win. We saw that in Roubaix and some others. So it's an interesting call. But what about winners and losers from this first, let's say, quarter of the season? The Australian summer into the Ardennes, the Belgian and Flemish classics. Some easy ones to pick off the top, Tommy, which I'll read the list out. Winners in terms of individual riders: Pogačar, winner; Van der Poel, winner; Healy, winner. Great Ardennes campaign. Pidcock, I would say winner. won Saudi, won a couple of races and stages himself, and was pretty good in the classics. When you can already see he's got an eye on the Giro. Brady Gilmore, winner, loser, his team for not signing him onto the main team. Giulio Ciccone, winner. Great campaign, second in Liège. Of course, taking a stage win at the Tour of the Alps as well. Kim LeCourt, winner. Liège-Bastogne-Liège, big breakthrough. Puck Petersa, Vollering, I think, winner. And Astana, winners. I think they are the main ones who could hold their head really high at this point of the season.
Yeah, that's an interesting... Yeah, look, the list you just labelled is cream of the cream of sort of the World Tour level, isn't it?
Especially Gilmore.
Well, I don't know why you have Gilmore there. Well, Gilmore's won a stack of races, but he hasn't won anything at a pro level.
No, but in terms of, are you like doing well this season? Are you going above what you thought you'd be doing? Are you at the top? Brady has won everything he's touched. It's not his fault he's not being sent to the big races. He's gone to the races he's been sent, and he's won, and he's done very well. That's my point.
Yeah, it's a great point to make. It's an easy point to make because you're looking at the balance sheet of just who's winning and who's not.
Yes.
Who's having a great couple of years.
What about losers? Losers on this list. I've got Vingegaard at the top of my list.
Oh, that's a gripe. I've got a gripe. Yes,
the start of the year, all he's done, and I don't have anything against Vingegaard, but all he has done, from his point of view, his season has been an L so far because all he's done is crashed after a couple of days in a rainy, cold stage, and then he's put himself on ice until the Criterium du Dauphiné. So he's raced about 4 or 5 races, or 10 days, and then he's going to the Tour. Not much publicity. Doesn't look good for him. And Visma.
Oh, stop with the publicity element. Leave it at the door. That's why everyone's just fawns over Tadej Pogacar.
But when you compare him, so let's say Vingegaard's comparison for him in terms of how his season is going is you compare him to his peers, and you look at Pogacar, who Vingegaard's proven he's the only one that can actually beat him. And Pog's flying away, winning everything he touches. Vingegaard's wrapping himself in cotton wool, and we know he might be doing that because of his previous crashes. But regardless, his season so far has started poorly. He got beaten by Almeida in a stage, didn't win the stage race, and then crashed out after his team forced him to ride hurt.
Look, put it this way, Vingegaard, I think if you're going to compare Vingegaard's start to the season, you should only compare to what he has done previously.
Well, previously,
because Vingegaard is not a Pogacar. He's not someone who's just going to, become in rip-roaring form in the classics and then dial it back and then rebuild to the Tour. Vingegaard, for example, this year, he won Algarve. Yes, he went to Paris-Nice. He had a concussion. He couldn't race. He walked away from it. Yep. Boom. Good decision. In comparison to last year, and I've got his results here, he won Tirreno. He started his season at Gran Camino, small Spanish race in the north. He won that as well. He went to Basque, and he did not finish stage 4. Walked away from it, and then he went to second at the Tour, and he finished his season with Tour de Pologne. He does not need to race a lot. He does not need to. And he's out on the volcano at the moment, mate. He's just logging the hours. That's what he does. You get him at the Tour. I think you can only judge Jonas Vingegaard on the Tour.
Okay, might be going a bit hard on him, but like I said, we know from our previous episodes, I don't think Vingegaard will be at the Tour. Red Bull Bora.
You don't think he'll be at the Tour?
Red Bull Bora. We'll get to that later on. We'll get to that in another episode. Red Bull Bora have had an L this start of the season. Of course, they had their success with Sam Welsford at the start of the year at the Tour Down Under, but with their Classics campaign, they were nowhere to be seen. We didn't see them. We saw Pithy get unlucky with some crashes in Roubaix and then Flanders, I think as well. He touched down or he was sick or something. We just didn't see them. And when you think about their budget, Tom, what they've got, their huge budget team, they didn't really do anything in the Classics.
Yeah, they're not. And interestingly enough, Red Bull, they haven't overly ever been a big Classics team, have they? So we're talking about obviously what they were prior to. They've always been a GC sort of team with a couple of good guys.
One Sagan left. Yeah, one Sagan left.
And they've been a GC-orientated team.
True.
And the start of this year, they've become second at Paris-Nice with Florian Lipovitz.
Yep.
He's had multiple top 10s along the World Tour rankings. The young German, he's done really well. And also, it just boils down to how good the bloody Slovenian superstar is of Primož Roglič.
Yes.
He wins Catalonia, he wins a few stages. He's really not just salvaged their season, but he's forged it, isn't he? Jai Hindley, he's doing great things across. He was good at Tirreno Adriatico.
Doing what he does, yes. He's just simmering.
Yes, you kind of very acute with your focus on the classics because that's what's been recently.
Yes.
But for the quarter, I'm taking a step back and I'm saying, oh, hold on. Red Bull have actually been pretty consistent here. They've had some good World Tour victories right from the get-go with Welsford. And even Martinez, he was up there on Sunday, top 10 at Liège.
It's a good call.
So, yeah.
Too hard.
But they're core cobbles. You're kind of focusing on the cobbles, aren't you, a little bit?
Okay, well,
because they weren't there, and they were missing.
Cobbles. They were missing the cobbles. Okay, Martinez at Liège-Bastogne-Liège is okay, but it was a dead rubber anyway. Positions 2 to 11th, so that it doesn't mean a lot. It's not as if they need World Tour points. I just think when you've got a team, Red Bull Bora are probably the second or third biggest team. With Visma and say Ineos, but you just expect a bit more. I would have thought, or just a bit more TV time. From the team. What about Visma Lease Bike as well? I got them as losers because again, with their budget, with their riders, particularly in the classics,
they're not the biggest budget rider though, are they? They're not the biggest budget team. They punch above their weight in terms of budget.
Top four or five at least. And let's say Wout had a good campaign. I mean, he was fourth or fifth in most of his big classics, but we didn't really see them outside of Wout, did we? Jorgensen was good.
He won Paris-Nice, second year in a row.
Maybe that is too hard on Visma.
You are, mate. I'm telling you. And they also won Volta Algarve with Jonas Vingegaard.
Wow.
Big Jonas, he's coming back to hurt you, isn't he, my boy?
You'll see if he's at the tour. Picnic Post NL, that's probably the clearest L of all.
That's a big L.
Absolutely. I know what
I've got to pull up their results to see where Picnic Post is. I've got, off the top of my head, I can rattle off the big ones, but what have they done this year?
Hey Siri, what is lower than mid? That's what we need to know because they've had an absolute stinker.
Tobias Lund Andersen has won the Surf Coast Classic in Australia.
They need to do everything they can to keep that man because he's very talented. Oscar Onley snapping his collarbone after TDU, I think, really hurt them because he would have been so good in the Ardennes. I don't know where he was. Onley would have been great in the Ardennes. But they are, as in terms of the World Tour rankings go right now, they are staring down the barrel of getting kicked out next year when we have the new, the new teams come in and relegations.
Yeah, for everyone who doesn't know, the bottom two will become relegated for the top two Pro Series teams that are on the list, and Post Picnic and SL, they're right up against it at the moment. And that's partly because teams who have had a good season, who have had a good start to the season, and I'm talking XDS Astana, they have had a very good start to the season at the moment. Yes. They're not winners, but they've riders like Clément Champusson, even over the weekend with Velasco, who finished, he mopped up the bunch kick for Liège. He finished in fourth. He's been in the top 10 at the Basque Country.
Case Bowl, Ballerini, and I'm taking winners from in terms of the season so far. They could be considered winners because they've had a fantastic season and they've made up like 2,000 or 3,000 points. Aaron Gate getting points down at the Great Ocean Road as well. So
Aaron Gate getting stage wins at the Tour of Hainan, mate. Get that one there. Yeah, very good if you like that. 2 stage victories over there. But they've got a broad scope. They came into this year with a very clear plan. Old Vinokurov, he's a wise old cat. He's a willy old fox.
He's a wise old cheater.
He is, absolutely. Yep. And he's literally gone, we just need points to survive, to survive this relegation. We need points. They're hustling, and they've put themselves just slightly into the frame of survival.
They're only about, I think they're about 700 or 800 points now off the bottom or getting into that promotion zone. So they're doing really well, and they've got Scaroni to come back, who's back on the bike and looking sharp. He's coming back for the Giro, and we saw what he did at the start of the year. So I think there's more points on the horizon.
Do you think?
For them?
But I actually find it really interesting if you'd even send Scaroni to the Giro.
He's Italian, isn't he? Italian?
Yeah, I know, but I find it, in terms of chasing points and surviving relegation and consistency, they might actually be better off sending Scaroni to smaller races where they know that they can get maximum points out of him.
He's a massive chance at winning stages at the Giro, and lots of stages that'll suit him. I reckon if you send him to the Giro, he wins a stage at a minimum. And what's that? 250 points, UCI points? Versus if he goes to some of those other smaller races, a stage win might only be worth 50 points UCI.
Yeah, they're on the list. He's on the list at least. The provisional Scaroni. He's got Lorenzo Fortunato, Diego Ulisi, Wout Poels. So some wise old heads with some younger riders there. They will have a good Giro, or they'll at least be in the mix.
And finally, Tom, Jayco, as much as we hate to say it, because we know there are lots of Australian listeners to the pod, we want Jayco to do well because we've got some riders in there that we love seeing. Of course, we're big fans of Plappy. He's an OG on this pod, and he's really been the saving grace for him so far this season. The only person to really do anything. Matthews has had a pretty decent Ardennes, but we just don't. And Milano Sanremo, of course, but he just doesn't win. He just can't win right now. Big Matthews, and then we haven't seen O'Connor. Haven't seen him much. A light start to the season, but that's, him a bit more better than I, but he does tend to turn up for the tours.
Yeah, he certainly does. He's got a bit of a reputation, O'Connor, for at least coming into a Grand Tour and riding into it as well. First week's never been the forte.
I feel like he needs to go to a race where everyone's got fatigue in their legs because he's quite good at, being good when everyone's fatigued.
Yeah, absolutely. I think been battling a little bit of illness as well. That's sort of been persisting, but it's not just been him as well, And we're speaking of other guys, sort of like Vlasov and those other GC riders. There's not been a whole host of GC riders competing at the moment.
That's true.
You've only seen one or two GC riders who have been able to procure results at the start of the year.
Yep.
That's because a lot of the other guys literally just crook. And you can't do the big blocks of altitude that was needed to be done before Paris-Nice and Tirreno because they've just been crook.
What's their do they have their team announced for the Giro yet?
No, they don't.
Because that'll be who's going to be their main guy for the Giro. Because we're going to do a Giro preview, by the way. I know Plappy's going, the great man. He'll be. That's no surprise. He launched into the Giro last year.
My understanding is that Chris Harper will also be given a bit of a free rein to chase some stages and see what he can do.
Well, you've got him. You've got Filippo Zana. He is an incredible cyclist. We know how good Zana is. We haven't seen him all year, but he will turn up for sure in his home country very well. Demarchi as well. Paul Double is one to look out for. The great Brit. He's kind of like a cross between a Merlier and a Christoph.
Yeah, right.
A real hard man with a big sprint at the end. So I'm keen to see what that young man can do. But they need something from the Giro, don't they?
I think everyone needs something from the Giro at the end of the day, don't they, mate?
They need Plappy to stand up.
They do need some UCI points, and they do need victories. You just got to win, don't you?
Yeah.
Winning alleviates stress right from the bus, the riders to management to the mechanics. And it gets the ball rolling, doesn't it?
I think if we see Plappy get through the Tour of Romandie really nicely this week, which he likes as a nice TT in that race for him, he's going to turn up to the Giro and he'll get himself a stage. He was so close last year. He will be the one, I think, that'll break that. He'll break that egg. That duck.
Would you throw Tudor in as a winner? The season that they've had at the moment? Stora wins Tour of Alps.
After the Giro, I think they're winners. Yes, they are winners. They are because Hershey had a great start to the season. And we saw Stora dominate, who we'll talk about in a minute.
They had a stage at Paris-Nice.
They're winners.
For a Pro Tour team, I think they are winners.
They are definitely winners. And they're just. But the thing is why I overlook them is because they're already looking and playing like big players. They're looking like the big boys. They've got the big XL Grundies on, mate. And
they do.
They are just looking the business Tudor. So those are our winners and losers. Who do we miss? Is there a particular rider you guys think may have been on either of these lists? Are we too hard on some? Should I back off Vingegaard? Let us know in the comments on YouTube.
Don't you
Spotify.
Start backpedaling on Vingegaard. I
will not be backpedaling.
Hung him out to dry.
Yeah, I will. I'll tell you, we'll get a little email. The news will pop up at the end of Criterium du Dauphiné, maybe midway through. Vingegaard won't be at the Tour. That's my mail. Now, we've got the FE Sports Roadside news coming up right after this break. Thanks for listening. This is Roadside, presented by Zwift. Red Bull Giro time bonuses, Tom. This was in the news today. Oh, this is an interesting concept. Let's just give you a little breakdown of what this is. So at the Giro, a new intermediate sprint time bonus setup has been announced, and Red Bull, the Red Bull KM Kilometre, they are the sponsors of this particular, these segments, right? So they announced it today that there will be the intermediate sprint jersey, or the Corsa Rosa, will be known as the Red Bull KM. And they'll be awarding time bonuses of 6, 4 and 2 seconds to the first 3 riders across the line in these intermediate sprints. But the difference is instead of using a usual line on the road and a banner indicating the sprint line, the organisers have said that the Red Bull Kilometre, or KM, will feature a Red Bull branded kilometre zone that will serve as the gateway to the intermediate sprints that count towards the GC.
So you're just telling me that Red Bull because I find this a bit humorous. Red Bull are sponsoring the intermediate sprint, correct?
Yeah.
Red Bull are putting a gate 1 kilometre to go before said intermediate sprint.
Yeah.
And then they're calling it some bullshit marketing all the way
The
to...
Red Bull kilometre. And it's going to be, it won't just be like 2, archways. The whole road will be the Red Bull blue. It'll be all, you know what Red Bull do? They take over events. It'll be a very nice activation. It's for 19 of the 21 stages. Of course, there's no time bonuses during stage 2 and 10, the time trials, which, like we said, look out, Plappy will like those. But how about this? Red Bull also said that they will surprise the entire group with an incredible surprise on the final stage into Rome, an intermediate sprint 25 kilometres from the finish in central Rome, which is the interesting mail there. So, hey, you know what I like about this? Gimmick or not, and no one cares about this jersey except someone riding for, that Maltese team. Red Bull entering the world of cycling heavily. This shows that they are really interested in marketing inside cycling, and it won't be long before we see them at the Tour as well with big activations like this. They will want that yellow jersey to sponsor the yellow jersey. Yeah, well,
obviously sponsoring Maillot Jaune is the creme de la creme of sponsorships in cycling, so to speak. It's right up there in terms of visibility and what you get. This is, in my opinion, wonderful, but also just get over it. Everyone's picked it up and ran with this yarn today. Move on.
The graphic?
Okay, you tell me who sponsored. Don't look at your phone. You tell me who sponsored the intermediate sprint point jersey at the Giro last year.
At the Giro last year, I would say it was. I'm going to say Leclerc, the banking.
I wouldn't be able to tell you. Don't care. Move on. That's what I think of it.
I think it was Leclerc, mate. One cycling.
It's a story that doesn't go away, does it, at the moment? Chris Marshall-Bell, he's been covering this profoundly.
Well, yeah, he has. One cycling has been simmering. It looked like it was kind of going to fall apart. Well, it just had reports that it wasn't really moving from its stagnating process, but news came in on Monday that the Saudi Investment Fund, which is backing the One Cycling project, has confirmed that they plan to launch this next year in 2026. The One Cycling project being, I think it's about 14 races that will be joined by all the UCI World Tour teams, and the aim is that each team will receive €1 million a year for the next 3 years to compete in the One Cycling project, and the women's teams will receive $250,000 per year in those first 3 years. And the aim is that funding for the teams participating in the One Cycling project will end in 2029, and by then they hope that the project itself will start to self-fund, and they won't need to sort of put money into the teams to help them, get to races and pay for whatever they need to. So it's interesting because at the moment it's got the support of almost all of the teams. The only teams that are reportedly said to be against joining the One Cycling project are Jayco Lula, the French teams Groupama, FDJ, Cofidis, and Arkea. Arkea are going to fold anyway, so who cares about them? And UAE Team Emirates, they are said to be on the fence because, of course, they've got their Emirates and Saudi. There's beef, of course, between those. So
nice way to summarise it. There's beef. Yes, very good.
There's beef, and the interesting thing is that, of course, ASO and ASO are obviously not involved with this. So they've got the Tour de France.
ASO are just, they're like a bird on the branch sitting in the corner. They're having a look and they're paying very close attention to seeing what will happen with this.
And with the 14 races that are supposedly going to be a part of this, the One Cycling are also going to add 4 more. And their whole project is to try and get the best riders from each of the teams racing in every single one of the One Cycling races. And that would mean that these riders participating in the One Cycling would have to miss World Tour races.
Yep.
But the rule is that World Tour teams can only skip 1 World Tour race per season, and they have to nominate it ahead of time. So that's going to create an interesting
little vacuum.
Conflict. Yeah,
it's going to create a little vacuum of where teams how teams handle this, and obviously the teams. It's so difficult at the moment because all they want is World Tour status that the UCI allocates the licenses to, and that on the calendar encompasses the Tour de France.
And
everything else is arbitrary. No one else really cares about it. So whether or not, in the perfect world, I'd love to see a coup. All the teams, they walk away from the Tour de France and they go and host their own Tour de France, and that Tour de France is owned by the UCI, because then the governing body would control everything and the money would become more circular.
And One Cycling, they want to work with ASO because as it stands right now, the reporting from, what's the actual newspaper called? Het Laat News, or HLN is as they're known sort of as in the acronym. They reported that a third of this $250 million investment in euros, which is backed from the Saudi fund, a third of that investment will only be paid if ASO agree to join this project, which of course, they want the Tour de France to be a part of the One Cycling calendar to get the big races, to get the big names. So it's going to be a struggle, and it's just interesting to watch. If they think this is going to start at 2026, and we're 6 months away from that, and they haven't even got everything on board yet, shaky.
Well, I can't see it starting in 2026, can you?
No.
I just can't. I could see it maybe pushed back in the deals, and sometimes for deals of this magnitude, I believe you just need to see a change of personnel to roll through, or generational change, or there needs to be a bit of a clash. Obviously, we've seen the Live Golf PGA similarities over the years, and what I found so fascinating just looking at that scenario was how quickly both organisations hung out the golfers. So before you knew it, McIlroy was this sort of mouthpiece of the PGA, and they lent on him, and then he didn't even get a heads up that PGA and Liv were having conversations, and they're about talking about amalgamating.
And the two entities came together in the end. So you're right. It's an interesting one. We'll watch this space as more information comes in. We'll keep you guys up to date.
I would be very worried if I was a rider.
Yeah, it's especially a rider who's not getting paid that well. Now, this happened yesterday as well. Remco has responded. He's an emotional man, Remco, isn't he?
He's very public.
On his Instagram, he posted a big screenshot with a huge writing in Belgian and in English, where he was responding to a Belgian sort of news pundit, a Kyle Sanderland style operator.
Is this guy Kane Corns as well? Is he a bit of a speak first, think later?
This guy's actually a flog of a human being from all reports. His name's Ruben, with initials VG. He's been reported to be quite a ladies' man, despite being married to the great man. But he's commented on Remco and basically insinuated that Remco's wife, Umi, and her family are only with Remco because of his money. And he said that on Belgian TV, and which is just it's an outrageous comment. And Remco has responded with his take, saying it's just absolutely absurd, and sort of pointing out that basically Umi, his wife, and her family, they are the ones that actually started with a lot of money rather than Remco. It's kind of the other way around in that scenario. So interesting that Remco is just so public. He gets very emotional, and I think when people target your family and make comments like that, well, I say chapeau to coming out saying, cop this.
Yeah, no, fair enough, mate. I'd be with Remco for his money. Absolutely. Hands down, mate. I wouldn't give it a second thought, mate.
Okay.
So sign me up.
He looks good in that gold helmet, doesn't he? The old gold helmet.
Yeah, wouldn't mind one of those helmets. Send them my way, Specialized. How about this one? Speaking of equipment though, Giulia Ciccone over Tour of the Alps. Ciccone's got a habit of throwing his sunnies. The wily Italian throws his sunnies when he has a win.
It's so good, isn't it?
Yeah, he copped a fine.
He cops a fine from the UCI, and 100%, of course, a great brand from FE Sports. They said they responded with a great post this week saying 100%. Fine with us.
Yeah,
we'll pay the fine, and it's a great allude to the Nike and Michael Jordan brand deal that famously the very first pair of shoes they got Michael Jordan into when they signed the deal.
Yeah, they were red, weren't they? They couldn't wear them.
And the NBA rules at the time said you can only wear white sneakers, and they said this in the meeting to say, sorry, we love this shoe, but you can't wear red shoes in the game. We'll get fined $5,000 US a game. And Nike said to them, we'll pay the fines. So that was what really got them over the line. So we love that from 100%.
Yeah, no, we do. Yeah, that's good shit steering, isn't it? Hey, and what are the UCI doing? Like,
they
grow
suck.
up. They suck. They suck.
It's like,
yes.
Just add it to the list. Add it to the list of things the UCI do, which just makes them.
We should start a list. The UCI suck list. And at the end of the season, we can wheel it out.
Put
That's it. I'm going to
socials.
start it. I'm going to pull it out. I'll start one.
Build it up. Build it up.
Okay.
We'll put it on socials halfway through the year. Voss signing a lifetime contract with Visma Lease Bike, just like Wout van Aert. You love this because Voss, if anyone deserves a lifetime contract, it is Marianne Voss.
Yes, certainly to go to the sport. She deserves that. Now, mate, our first couple of pods we prattled on about this because it was dying a slow death was the British road scene.
Yes.
Now, it's been reborn again, largely thanks to Rapha, the sports brand, the clothing company. They've come to the rescue. They've got a thing that they announced this week, and it's called the Rapha Super League.
It's very close to the Pro Velo Super League.
Yes, it is. It echoes our own national series.
Copied that.
Yeah, but this sounds considerably better. They've got 16 races. So they're going to have 16 races locally. It was actually initiated by a task force that had sort of stakeholder members of it, of
remember
Rapha.
the people being announced on that list.
They had some, and obviously British Cycling
I
were
think Ed
there.
Clancy was a big name
Precisely, yeah, the former track star from GB. So this is a really, really big positive that's coming out of the Isle in the north. I'm really happy to see this happen because, as we are all too well aware, without any local or national series, you just do not have those pathways for riders to progress, and your sport dies.
Yeah.
So chapeau, particularly for Rapha to getting on board.
Well
with
done to
this,
Rapha.
Yeah.
They
And,
were the
you know,
OGs in that. They had the Rapha Nocturne. They were part of the original series that used to be televised that you could watch. So Rapha, they've just called on their old saviours, and Rapha need a bit of good publicity as well, with them sort of going dormant recently. So good for them.
They're not turning over a crust in the green at the moment. So hopefully this kickstarts it. Apparently this series though, it was held back in the 50s as well. So
Sweet.
it is almost like a bit of a model for One Cycling to look at this as well, because the Rapha series, so to speak, it is going to be a points-based series, and then you've got your grand final at the end.
Oh, a final.
So
Okay.
it's a genuine series where you have a winner at the end crowned.
Okay.
So it's something that cycling, cycling needs to change. It can't just be like so TDF centric. It's got to find different ways to be able to make the point systems or smaller races with points more attractive.
Great. I love it. Well done to Rapha. Mark O'Brien and Tiffany Cromwell were crowned the Australian gravel champions over the weekend at the Ponderosa Pines, which we touched on at the start of the episode. It's good to see the two strongest win the race.
How old's Mark O'Brien?
I think he's 37, 38. He's a machine. He is a machine. I mean, Trekkie Johnson was at that race as well, but the race only goes for 3 hours, so there's a bit of a difference between 3 and 6 hours, which is what Trekkie is very good at. But
how is Mark O'Brien though? Like Tiff Cromwell, congratulations, chapeau. You're a well tour rider though. Mark O'Brien's just on the tools, Monday to Friday. Got a kid. Does he have 2 potentially? I'm unsure, but the bloke just continually performs. It is. Imagine this bloke rocking up to your group ride. It would scare the shit out of
you
me.
wouldn't be able to have an easy ride if he turns up. But you're right. Marco is just a champion. Always in form, Mark O'Brien, as we call him. So look out for him. He'll be at the Devil's Cardi, and he'll also be at 7 as well. So a big contender at those. Now, a little bit of transfer news as well, Tom. The news is at the moment we've got Tiege Benoot headed to AG2R next season. We've got King Kong heading to Tudor, the Swiss connection, going there, and Luca Lamperti to EF Education. Now these are rumours, but I'll confirm them because they have come from good sources. Tiege Benoot to AG2R is a weird one.
No, it's not. Makes perfect sense. He's at Visma Lease Bike. He's been there for a number of years. He was at Lotto prior to that. He's a rider who is incredibly handy, but he's not a tier 1 classics rider. He's a second tier.
So why move?
But move because Decathlon AG2R might offer more money and more opportunity. So why would you not take that? The next two are just rubbish. Kung to Tudor.
Oh, that's
great.
Kung's
whatever.
good.
Oh no, they're just rubbish transfers. Kung's
what about Lamperti? He's a very exciting prospect.
Yes, he certainly is. He's an American going to an American team. Great. A Swiss rider. Kung going to Tudor. Great. It doesn't rock my socks.
It's okay. It's early days of the transfer season, but that's just who we've got. I think Tudor are going to have a lot more where that came from.
You reckon?
Yes, a lot more.
Are they going to get a budget increase in-house?
They've already got the budget. They have the budget already. The budget is there. Reportedly, it's upper echelon. And let me say this. I think Trek better make sure they're offering the right amount of money to Mads Pedersen, because I think
absolutely. Yeah.
Tudor will be looking for someone like
He won't be going there. He's going to Uno X.
Let's see.
He's going to Uno X.
I want to go to the tour, mate. Uno. Speaking of the tour, has nothing to do with it, except half the riders are probably using these products. FE Sports, they launched their new Wahoo computers that are coming out in May. So they're
early
coming
May
out
or late May? I need one.
Early May.
Okay. Because mine's broken. My current unit, I won't label it. It is just absolutely obliterated. I need one of these Roams.
Like your legs, mate, when you're in the wheel of the big horse over here. But Wahoo, they've got the new Elements 3 and their Roam 3 as well. The Bolt 3 and the Roam 3. The units itself, which I've seen, a lot of people, you can click on the pictures and have a look. They're functionally, they are very much the same, but what unlocks these products for the future is that they will now be able to update all the unit software with little feature updates and that sort of things. The things you actually need and use on the computer.
Idiot-proofing it.
Well, they can update them all at once, because at the moment with the Wahoo products, if they do a feature update for the Bolt, it doesn't work with the Roam, and then the same with the Ace.
So
now all these products will be on the same frequency, so to speak, so that when they do a feature update, like colours or new mapping or some other thing like that, it'll apply to all three. So it's a bit of an upgrade for the whole company in terms of efficiency, and of course a better product down the line for consumers. Now we've got a bit of a who would you rather coming up, Tommy. This is a Roadside presented by Zwift. So, Tom, I was listening to SEN last week. A bit of
you would listen.
talk.
You would listen to SEN, wouldn't you? It's the most nuffy thing in the world. Do you call up to SEN?
No, because they got Eastern times, Eastern states. I'm listening to it at 5 a.m. here.
Hello, Gary Lyon.
You listen too, because
I absolutely would.
Tuesday went to the ramble. Anyway, what they did was they did a who would you rather of the footy world. So you're the coach, or you're the team DS, director sportif. You're some ex-doper who's found himself in a
Marco
role.
Giannetti, who's head of UAE.
Giannetti sounds good.
Yep,
who was a mid-rider, but a great DS somehow.
Excellent doper.
You've got to choose between these riders in your team. You can only choose one. Would you rather Pogacar or Van der Poel? Oh, okay, that was pretty quick.
Tour de France makes money.
What about Remco or Mads Pedersen?
Ooh, Remco, because Remco makes more money.
Are you his father-in-law?
Yep, I'm on the books, mate. Remco, mate, he's on the...
Okay.
Mate, if you're able to be a big enough cyclist to be on the face of a dirty Domino's over there and be the face of Domino's Belgian, then I think you're going to have no problem selling your crappy merch
Who gets
to the
a
punters.
Domino's, eh? You got to get a wood-fired sourdough base. I wouldn't eat a Domino's.
Oh, look, you wouldn't eat a Domino's?
Nah.
You mow through the subway, though.
I don't want a Subway after a golf round. What about this in terms of flops? Vingegaard or Wout van Aert in your team?
Oh, Jonas Vingegaard. He's won the Tour de France twice.
Okay.
Who would you go with?
I'd take Wout.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that.
He's actually a fridge in real life, eh? He is huge.
Yeah.
I've seen him. I think he was standing next to Van der Poel at Wollongong World Championships. We were interviewing Van der Poel, and Wout was next to him. And you think they may look of similar stature and physique and size on the bike when you see him racing, but side by side, Wout he's got like 20 kegs on him. He's an absolute behemoth. What about this one, Merlier or Philipsen?
I would take... both are exceptional. On the current run of the green, I'd take Tim Merlier.
Okay.
Merlier was exceptional at Paris-Nice, and I think for the price you're paying him over Philipsen, you're paying Merlier considerably less than what you're paying Philipsen.
Merlier looks like his trajectory seems to be rising, whilst Philipsen maybe...
He's plateaued. He's not down, he's not back, he's not up. He's just...
What about this one?
Yeah.
Lance,
why have you put this on the rundown?
Armstrong or Alejandro Valverde, two upstanding citizens.
I'm going to take the third of two options and go Chris Horner.
No!
Move on. That is just...
Oh, what? You can win the Giro at 40 or the Vuelta at 40.
I'd go Valverde.
Okay.
Just because the people in Spain, and I've read a little bit about this, they just... Past transgressions are ignored. They're pushed to the side. They're just a blight on the radar. They're just, a blip in the eye. There's nothing else. It doesn't matter. But Bala, Balaverde, they call him, the Green Bullet. He is a 4-time winner of Liège-Bastogne-Liège. He's a world champion. Oh, he's the Messiah, and they absolutely adore him. So I'm going to go Alejandro Valverde.
The old siesta. What about Sagan or Bradley Wiggins?
Mate, Peter the Great,
Really?
a 3-time world champion.
Mate, what about the most decorated Olympian for Great Britain and a Tour de France winner?
Nah, I love Sagan.
World champion.
I saw a bit of footage that came up on my feed the other day of Sagan when he won his first World Championships in Richmond.
I remember that.
The big horse, the big unit, he gets off his bike and the usher comes across and, Peter, you got to come with us to the podium. And he just doesn't even notice this bloke. He just pushes his bike. He just shoves it, pushes it. And the security guard's got to grab his bike. And then he throws his helmet into the crowd.
I remember
and he's
that.
walking down. And then there's big Tom Boonen comes across the line. And he's got this smile on his face. Sagan, you talk of panache. You talk of personality and how Pogacar has it. Sagan had it in tenfold. Sure, he might have done some naughty stuff off the bike, but at the end of the day, geez, he was fun to watch.
Okay, Tommy, it's now time for... And by the way, before we just open the segment, what did you think of the Sting?
The Sting, mate, it's good work. It's actually some of the best work you've ever done, hey? Is that Cadell in the Sting?
It could be. I won't say who it is, but it's a
You put Cadell, you put the Australian's greatest champion in the Sting.
Cadell's an absolute legend. He's a champion of Australian cycling. One of those quotes is like the best things ever.
What's the
I
quote?
absolutely
What was
love
the quote? It
You'll
was
have
a bit
to
quick in my
listen
ears.
to it because it is time for In the Gun. This is In the Gun.
Don't stand on my dog or I cut your head off. Fuck you! 3 against 1, it's not a big surprise.
I think it's normal for people if they go on the toilet or not.
But yet you said that I am the cancer.
First few corners, I cornered like I was saying, like my wife, and she hasn't ridden a bike for 12 years.
So my In the Gun, Tommy, belongs to these random kit reveals that the professional teams are announcing, and Visma Lease of Life are the ones that do it the most. They've just announced a team kit. I think it's for the Tour. I'm sick of it. Just pick one kit for the year. You can't keep announcing kits all over the place and expect people to care, and also expect people to bloody support your team. You've got to try and buy it. Just pick one kit. And then you've got Uno X. They're rolling a 7-Eleven kit for one race for Liège-Bastogne-Liège. Why? I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. When you pick your team kit at the start of the year and you do your stupid photo where you're pulling the sleeve, you only get one go. You can't just make 10 kits a year. They need to stop it.
My In the Gun is going to be you for coming up with that absolute crock of crap. The teams have no other way of making money, pulling it in. And Uno X, for example, you cannot be against that. That is one of the best things I have ever seen in terms of a media publicity stunt, PR stunt, whatever you want to call it. Uno X over the weekend for Liège-Bastogne-Liège, they did a throwback. We're talking about the internationalism of the sport, and they did a throwback to the 7-Eleven kit, and they did it so well. They made the coolest marketing materials. The kit was top notch.
The kit is elite, but it doesn't make any sense. You can't just do a random
Did you
kit
read
for
into
one
it?
race. No.
Ignorance, I will part you with it. So it was because of the whole internationalism of the sport. When 7-Eleven came into cycling, that was a bit of a game changer. It was a big international, non-European sponsor, and it was like, here we go. We're going to have, the whole Americans coming into the team as well, and it's where the door started to open for cycling to the rest of the world. So I, as you know, and this is one of my passions of the sport, is that I love the international side of it all. I absolutely adore that
What
you
about
get riders
Visma's
from
then?
all around the world.
What about Visma's?
I respect Visma's. It doesn't have the same level of
come
what
on,
Uno X have done. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, the teams, they've got to put out more kit. And I, for one, would like to see more people wearing pro kit.
I don't mind. Yeah, okay. I'm not talking
We got
about that.
we got Jayco wearing, everyone rolls around in the supporter kit.
What about that guy at Leo's Bastillier's Fair?
Tell you what, he shouldn't
Fucking
be in the gun. He should be gunned down. The absolute bloke who's decided to roll around with the elite women.
Did you see the footage? He actually came out of the barrier, just hiding like a little gremlin.
It was premeditated.
Yeah, and then
They want to give the guy who threw Vanderpool a water bottle in the face and charge him with manslaughter. This guy should be charged with dickheadedness.
he's the kind of dude that jumps onto the back of like a women's only group ride and just gets in the middle of the roll through like an absolute. You know what he is? He's a pest. That guy. He is an absolute pest. And I think it was Peterson or no, it was Peterson.
Yeah, it was Peterson. Yeah,
she said that she thought it was Pogacar. Yeah. Because he had the UAE kit. What an idiot. And seriously, if you're one of the great Europeans listening who are over the side of the road, tell everyone don't do that because it's just poor form.
You'd struggle to keep up. I knew it wasn't you.
Oh, come on, mate. Come on, mate. Now, final words to wrap up. Don't forget, we've got the Giro preview coming up next week because the Giro's in 2 weeks' time. We'll do a huge dive into that. Devil's Cardigan and 7 gravel race previews as well, Tommy.
Yeah, we didn't do a Liège preview because we just got all these previews coming up and you just don't like the Ardennes, so you said you didn't want to do one.
No, it was time. We wanted to. We lost time and there was golf and there was beers and... It was so much stuff. Okay, legends.
It's going to be good.
This is Roadside presented by Zwift. We'll see you for our Devils preview next week.